Hi, this is Robin Blackstone. And this week we're bringing a couple of podcasts to you that are partnered with the LinkedIn newsletter articles and a Substack that I wrote. I want people to be able to access this information broadly. So it's going to be published as part of my Dr. AI podcast platform. This podcast is entitled The Human Principle, Trust, Context, and Dr. AI. Earlier this week, I argued that modern healthcare operates more on consent than autonomy. That was the diagnosis. This is the correction. The central failure of modern healthcare is not only cost, access, or fragmentation. It is that the person whose life is at stake is not the operating center of the system. We built a system in health around institutions, around visits, claims, coverage rules, workflows, and interventions. The individual appears within that structure but does not organize it. Health is experienced personally, but it is managed externally. That is the design error. It matters because health is not produced in clinics. It is produced in a lived environment of habit, belief, stress, work, family, neighborhood, memory, incentive, and constraint. It is shaped by what a person can see, what a person can afford, what a person has learned to ignore, and what a person has been taught is normal. I think of that field as personal health culture. Most systems encounter that culture only after it has already expressed itself as disease. That is too late. If we are serious about autonomy, we need a different center, not a better interface layered on top of the same architecture, a different architecture. I call that center the human principle. The human principle is not the patient as the system currently imagines them, not a diagnosis, not a chart, not a member, not a covered life, not a risk score, not a sheep. The human principle is the full human being in context. A body, yes, but also a history, a biology, but also a family system, a set of risks, but also a set of meanings, a life lived across time, not a case appearing in episodes. Once that becomes clear, the role of Dr. AI becomes clearer too. Dr. AI is not a chatbot. It is not a digital front door. It is not a synthetic physician. And it is not valuable because it sounds fluent. Dr. AI is the continuous interpretive layer built in service of the human principle. Its role is to hold context across time, to recognize meaningful change early, to translate complexity into understanding, to surface patterns that would otherwise remain invisible, to help a person act before crisis becomes the point at which care finally begins. In other words, Dr. AI is not important because it automates answers. It is important because Dr. AI can sustain continuity. That continuity is what modern healthcare has never been able to provide. Clinical medicine is episodic by nature and by necessity. Human life, however, is not. No physician, no matter how skilled or devoted, can continuously inhabit the daily flow of a person's sleep, stress, decisions, exposures, routines, trade-offs, and small biological changes. But health is shaped there. That is the space Dr. AI is meant to occupy, not as a replacement for the physician, but as the layer that carries context forward until physician judgment is actually needed. That distinction matters because the success of this model does not depend on performance alone. It depends on trust. Not trust as sentiment, trust as structure. A system worthy of trust does not ask people to surrender judgment to an opaque machine. It gives them a way to understand what is being seen, why something matters, what is uncertain, what alternatives exist, and when escalation is required. It gives physicians a way to see the grounds of interpretation rather than merely receive conclusions. It preserves the human relationship where human judgment, accountability, and care belong. In that sense, Dr. AI should not be thought of as a product feature. It is constitutional infrastructure. Its first obligation is not persuasion. It is legibility. The second is fidelity to the human principle. Its third is disciplined humility. It must know what it can do, what it cannot do, and when a human clinician must enter the frame. This also clarifies the role of the physician. The physicians remain indispensable, but the physician is no longer forced to act as the sole container of continuity in a system too large, too fragmented, and too intermittent to support that expectation. Dr. AI does not diminish medical expertise. Dr. AI protects medical expertise from being wasted on tasks that belong to translation, monitoring, context retention, and early signal detection. When designed properly, Dr. AI allows physicians to enter at a higher level of judgment. That is not displacement. That is realignment. And it is a realignment that works only if the human principle remains the governing center. Because once the individual is displaced again, Dr. AI simply becomes another institutional layer optimized for the convenience of the system rather than health of the person. And that is the risk before us. We can use AI to automate fragmentation, to accelerate throughput, to make an already impersonal structure more efficient at moving people through it. Or we can use AI to build the first health system that actually knows who it is for. That choice is not technical. It is moral, structural, and civic. If we get it right, autonomy changes meaning. It is no longer the lonely burden of making better choices in the dark. It becomes the practical ability to understand one's health in context, in time, and in relationship to what matters. Responsibility becomes possible because understanding becomes continuous. And trust is no longer a slogan attached to technology. It becomes the condition that makes a human-centered health system possible. The future of health will not be secured by placing better tools inside old architecture. It will be secured when the human principle becomes the true center of the system, and Dr. AI is built to serve that center with clarity, discipline, and trust. There should be no naivety about the scale of the task or the cost of failure. But if we succeed, we will have built more than a better care model. We will have built a health architecture capable of creating value in human health continuously across the full course of a life. That is the real work.